So, last time we saw a few descriptions of Satyavan. One, of course, what we have in the present canto, the second canto of the Book of Love. Then we had a long description about Satyavan presented by Narad, all his attributes, all his qualities and whatnot. And then of course we had the description as given by Vyasa himself in the original story of Savitri, the Mahabharata story of Savitri, he, these, etc., that kind of a thing. And just now we also heard from Arvind what the Supreme himself sees in Satyavan. He is my soul, etc., etc., all that is. So we have, in fact, there are a few more descriptions of Satyavan in various aspects presented in Savitri. Now, the question is, we are dealing with the Book of Love. In that context, which Satyavan is most acceptable? Will Savitri accept Satyavan as presented by Narad? Suppose Narad comes and here is the boy, like this, like this, like this. And here is Vyasa, he says, here is Satyavan, like this, like this, like this. Here is the Supreme who tells, yes, this is Satyavan, this is Satyavan, this is. Will Savitri, the young princess, who has fully grown into maidenhood, who is bursting into the opulence of life, will she accept those Satyavans as her life's partner? If it is that. You see, for instance, Narad tells about Satyavan. He is a marvel of the meeting of earth and heaven. His figure a front of nature's march. Divinity and kingliness are on his brow. Eyes hold the memory of bliss. Gentle like a bud of spring. This is how Narad is describing Satyavan lyrically, very beautiful also. Pure like stream of spirit and sense. A living knot of golden paradise. That is Satyavan, a living knot of golden paradise. A blue immense joy. I don't know whether a true maiden would fall in love with such a Satyavan. She wants a life force. She would like to have life force as a young girl. All that, okay, it's all right. It may even sound in a certain sense kind of abstract in a certain sense. If not abstract, certainly too lofty, too spiritual, and perhaps a little remote from the force of life. And I don't know whether a girl would fall in love with such a person if he is presented to her with all these qualifications. What do you say? But I think the description of Satyavan, what we have here, noble and clear as a broad, peaceful heaven, A tablet of young wisdom was his brow. Freedom's imperious beauty cowed his limb. The joy of life was on his open face. The joy of life was on his open face. His look was a wide daybreak of the gods. That's the morning. That's the glory of life and full of power and all that. His head was a youthful rishi's touched with light. But the most beautiful thing is, for a young girl, his body was a lover's and a king's. There is a majesty, there is a royalty, there is a power in him. And his body of a lover. And it is that which will really draw her towards him. In the magnificent dawning of his force, then she moves on, you see. That is the dawning of the force. Force, that is what she wants. So I think the poet as an artist, the poet also as a great reader of psychology of young souls, is very apt in presenting here the kind of a Satyavan with whom Savitri will immediately fall in love. The poetry and the life force are here coming together, merging into each other. It is not Nara Satyavan, it is not divine Satyavan, it is not Vyasa Satyavan. No. Okay, all right, they are very great. I want somebody here to do something here in life, you see. And that is exactly the beauty of what we have in Shivandu's Savitri, in this canto Satyavan he described. And as I said earlier, to a certain extent, this is the Satyavan who is not kind of painted in front of us. That the painter or the poet is seeing a figure here in front of him and making a sketch of him and giving a description of the Satyavan to us here. It is a Satyavan who in his trueness and who at the same time in his flesh and limbs and bones, in his physical body, is seen from somewhere else, from the eyes, from the vision, from the sight of a yogi poet. And it is that Satyavan which is going to be attractive to Savitri. So in that sense, there is a sort of an appropriateness of the description and the event which is going to take place shortly, you see. That is the beauty of Shivandu's epic Savitri. You see, the description follows certain context. It is the same Satyavan everywhere, but different facets, different angles, you see. So having said that, we can move further on. In the magnificent dawning of his force, built like a moving statue of delight, he illumined the border of the forest peace. Last time I told you, moving statue, the oxymoron, the statue is normally fixed, but here is a statue which is moving. That is the solidity of Satyavan who is approaching her. At the same time, who is firm in his position, firm in the sense of a statue. Out of the ignorant, eager toil of the years, abandoning man's loud drama, he had come led by the wisdom of an adverse fate to meet the ancient mother in her groves. This also we saw last time, the adverse fate, how as a as an exiled prince. He came with his parents and he was living in the hermitages here. And all that thing is an act of fate. Although apparently this is an adverse fate, he has lost his kingdom, his father, the royalty, everything, and he is living now a life of a hermit, life of a recluse basically in the forest, and therefore it is an adverse fate in the immediate context. But in that adverse fate, there is a wisdom of things had to gather together and come to a point for something important, something significant, something which is designed with the fate to happen. Designed with the fate to happen. So that is the adverse fate's wisdom, things are happening here. One example, maybe not so very close or immediate. See, you take the history of India for the past 200, 300 years, when the colonial rule in India was getting established. There were Portuguese, there were Spanish, there were French, there were British who were trying to occupy different parts of the country in different places. And the north east was practically in the hands of the British. In the south, Madras was the British, but down below, Pondicherry and these regions were in the hands of the French. So that is the historical aspect of it. Now, when the fight was going on, the battles were being fought between the French and the British people in those days. At that time, the king of Mysore, Tipu Sultan, he sided with the French. And because of them, they are coming together, they could repel the British attack on Pondicherry. And Pondicherry did not become a British colony at that time. Now, that was an act of fate which was seen a couple of centuries ago, so that in the course of time, the mother comes here to Pondicherry. A place had to be here for her to come. Had to be here. That is the act of adverse fate. How in the long run of things happen and get fixed, so to say. There had to be a French station here, so to say, and it was retained. It was there for that purpose. She had to come here. She had to meet Shevandu. These things had to happen here. So that is an act of fate. That is the wisdom of fate in the long run of time. You see. Nobody would think that, well, this is the kind of a plan, but perhaps it is so somewhere else, you see. What do you say? And then, of course, Satyavan has grown as a foster child. He was brought up by nature and he learned all the beautiful things of life and nature directly from his contact with nature. Satyavan. He was a child of beauty and solitude, and to the centuries the lonely, wise a brother of the sunshine and the sky, a wanderer communing with death and Mars. And of course, he is with the knower. Now, this communion with nature, we are really cut off from nature. We don't really learn things directly from nature, from the trees, from the plants, from the mountains, from the rivers, from the birds, from the beasts, from the animals. We are cut off from them. But there is so much of wisdom. Now, I will give you an example how even the highest knowledge could be attained by communion with nature. Spiritual knowledge, of course, but also the worldly knowledge, day-to-day knowledge. In Chandogya Upanishad, there is a story of a young aspirant going to the Rishi and praying him for spiritual knowledge. Please give me Brahmatjnana, spiritual knowledge, the knowledge of the eternal. He goes there, a young disciple, an aspirant. And the Rishi accepts him, but he tells him, look, you have to do something first. So, from a lot of his herd, he must be having thousands of cows, he picks up 400 lean and old cows. 400 lean and old cows from his lot. So you can imagine how big his dairy must have been, you see. And he tells this disciple, this young man, this aspirant, take these 400 cows, go to the forest, and when they become 1,000, then you will be fit to get Brahmatjnana, the knowledge of the eternal. And this boy, he drives the cows to the forest and dresses them, lives with them for a number of years, maybe 10 years, 15 years. I don't know how long it will take for 400 cows to become 1,000 cows. So, he is doing that part of the job, so to say. And when the cows have become 1,000, he is now ready to go to his guru's place, to the Rishi. And on the way, different creatures come and give him this knowledge, this knowledge, this knowledge, this knowledge. Birds come, animals come, and they give him different types of knowledge already. And when he reaches the Rishi's place, he tells him, you already had knowledge now. You have learned whatever has to be learned. So it is by direct communion with nature that he has become the Veda knower. He knows the Vedas. He knows the eternal by direct communion with this one. That is the kind of knowledge Satyavan has already acquired. Satyavan was a young boy, maybe 5 years, 7 years, or 8 years, when he came to the forest and grew up in the forest from that early boyhood. Now he has become a young, handsome youth, maybe around 25 or whatever. It means that roughly for 20 years he was in communion with nature, and he becomes then the Vedan knower. There already he has the knowledge of the Brahman, of the eternal. Of course, he is also in the company of the rishis and the sages in the forest. But all these together, it is that which have made him the Veda knower. Or the unwritten book, obviously. The animals, the birds, mountains, they are telling him, they are giving the knowledge. They are an unwritten book. And he is acquiring that knowledge directly.